Some people making at least $5 million still think they're poor and stress over finances, according to this report. And I think this is like crazy. Like, can you imagine making $5 million and feeling poor? Like, the average household income in the United States is like what, 45, 50K? Like, that's crazy. They may be richer than you are, but they don't feel rich. A survey conducted by Bloomberg of 1,000 Americans making at least $175,000 a year, putting them in the top 10% of the U.S. tax filers, revealed that 25% say they are either very poor, or getting by but things are tight. The outlet surveyed people who have good jobs, including lawyers, construction company owners, doctors, and franchise bosses, and who own their homes and have savings for retirement. Still, only 50% described themselves as comfortable, and only a quarter said they felt rich or very rich. Some of the respondents making upwards of $5 million were among those who said they felt broke, according to Bloomberg. Nearly 60% of the high earning respondents said they worry about money, and about 25% don't think they'll be better off financially than their parents. Aside from inflation, which has made everything from groceries and college tuition to travel, car payments, and taking out a loan more expensive, Bloomberg attributed the responses to social media, which encourages users to compare their lifestyles with others. Many of those in search of feeling wealthier have considered ditching their real estate in expensive cities like New York City, LA, and Miami in favor of parts in the US with lower taxes and cost of living, such as South Carolina, Texas, and West Virginia, Bloomberg reported. Like, to put it into perspective, right? Let's say that you have a condo or a home in like California or New York, right? If you were to sell those properties and, like, let's say move to like an area like Tennessee, Las Vegas, you could probably buy a home a quarter of the price of your current home for way more than what you have, right? You could probably buy a mansion with what you had, because I think the average home price in California is like a million or something, like something crazy. So you could probably spend like 300K, 400K, depending on the state that you move to, for like a really nice house in a very good location, and still have crazy amounts of money left over to invest, save, enjoy. The post utilized Bloomberg's comparison tool, which was created using data from the Census Bureau to show how richer or poorer earners would be in a different part of the US. So, a professional making 200K in the New York metro area, a salary that's more than 89.6% of households in the US, would feel a whopping $41,772 richer decamping to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, thanks to a 17.3% savings on cost of living and nearly a $10,000 decrease in housing costs. And if that same well paid worker moved from New York to Houston, Texas, they could expect to feel about $30,000 richer, as the cost of living is 13% lower and annual housing costs are about $6,100 less in the southern city. In general, a New Yorker's cost of living would be reduced tremendously if they moved out of Manhattan, where the average overhead is 137.6% above the national average, according to Smart Asset. Many high earning Manhattanites have ditched the Big Apple's exorbitant rents and taxes for the sun soaked benches of Miami in a pandemic fueled exodus. Though the demand for the Sunshine State has edged real estate prices higher, Bloomberg found that New Yorkers bringing in 200K per year would still feel $8,553 richer if they moved to Miami, where the cost of living is only 22.8% above the national average. And annual housing costs in the Miami Fort Lauderdale area are about $4,000 less than its northeastern counterpart, and anecdotes from objectively wealthy individuals revealed why so many people raking in six figures and living in elaborate abodes still feel financial pressure. Deborah Corbin, a 67-year-old retiree who lives in a home worth more than $1.3 million dollars in Naples, Florida, told Bloomberg, I still worry about money. I think rich is subjective. When I'm in southern Illinois, where we're from, I feel rich. When I'm in Naples, I feel blessed. Down here is hard to feel rich because there are billionaires down here. Meanwhile, James Bramble, a 53-year-old attorney in Salt Lake City who makes about $350,000 annually, said that to feel rich would no longer having to depend on money. Like if you didn't work, you'd still be okay for the rest of your life, and I'm not there. The thing is, I mean, this thing is like so dependent on your current financial situation. And what I mean by that, if you're someone who spends, let's say, like 2K per month, let's just say that, right? That is your typical expenses per month for living, etc. Right? Like that is the bare minimum that you got to spend to survive and stay in a place to like have a roof over your head. Well, that's $24,000 a year. Well, you'd need a way to fund that. You'd need a way to provide you with $24,000 a year in income in some form so that you could basically survive in the bare minimum if you didn't have to do nothing. And depending on how much money you got like in investments, you could do that. If you were to own like a rental property, you could do that depending on like the location of that property and how much you could get for the rent from there, whether or not it's paid off, etc. So like there are ways that you could do this. I mean, you could put money into like dividend stocks that pay you a certain amount and you could potentially cover that as well. But the problem is that probably wouldn't actually take too long to achieve if you're making a good amount of money. But if your lifestyle keeps creeping up to now you're spending like 4 or 5K a month for your bare minimum expenses, well, that's going to take a lot more money to be able to cover that. That's why, like, it's always a good idea to lower your monthly expenses by paying off debt, getting rid of like things that you're like forced to pay on because once you clear that up, it frees up a lot of cash flow. But not only that, it makes it so that if you choose to financially retire, you could because you're good, right? Because you know that your monthly expenses would be able to be covered by, let's say, Social Security, your investments, a pension, real estate income, some sort of other income, dividend income, whatever, right? But it's going to be pretty hard to like maintain that or get to that if like you go from like 2,000 per month, 3,000 per month, $5,000 per month, $10,000 per month in terms of like living expenses. That's why you could get people who are making like 200K a year take home, but they're like spending like nearly 20K a month for their living expenses. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what is the point of making $200,000 a year, like after taxes, but then basically spending every single thing that you make so that you literally got no money in the bank account, no money towards investments, so that you're basically going to be forced to work for the rest of your life forever, right? And you don't even have the option to choose maybe a job that you might enjoy better, that you might actually like doing, but it pays too low because you have so many monthly expenses. Like, why do you want to be in that situation? Wouldn't it be nicer to be in a situation where you could just choose whatever job you want to, regardless of how much it pays you, because you just don't care about it, because your monthly expenses can be covered easily? At least that's the way that I would view it.